is the 140th episode of CloudFocus Weekly for the third week of June 2012. This episode titled Edging Social. CloudFocus Weekly is sponsored by Arkus, your cloud computing experts. I'm your host, Jason Atwood, and joining me for the 140th time is Justin Elstein. Justin, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm fabulous.
Are you, though?
I feel like we skipped a week, but then why wasn't last week?
No, it wasn't last week.
All right.
You gave me some gruff for it.
For the week before.
I think it's because the last one was like on a Monday, and it's now Thursday. So it feels like it's been
been a while.
Because it kind of has, but it hasn't. Have no fear.
CloudFocus Weekly is here.
That's right.
Excellent. Speaking of fear...
What are you scared of?
I'm very afraid of really great reviews.
I ain't afraid of no ghost.
Of iTunes. So we got a new review.
Thanks, Marco.
Marco put up a great review, and he just happened to put it up on a very special day. June 17th. Is
that your birthday?
It's my birthday!
It was your birthday.
So it was kind of like a birthday gift.
It was your 75th birthday.
I am no more than a few days older than 41 at all. No more than that. Interesting enough, this is something we should talk about off air, so let's talk about it on air to make it more fun.
All right.
He too says, we've had a bunch of reviews that have come in from the GTD episode.
Right.
So, people found us from that episode.
Yes. Which I find weird that you'd stick with us after the GTD episode. and it's such a different episode than any other episode.
So you find us that way.
Has nothing to do with any of the other stuff we talk about, really.
Come for the GTD, stay for the Salesforce.
Yeah, I guess.
That's the podcast. That's our motto.
We've had a couple other people say, one other person said, I found the GTD one.
Right.
And he got into it. He's like, it's hard to stick with it, but I'm going to stick with it like you guys said.
Excellent. Oh, with GTD.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's not going to stick with the podcast. You can give that up.
No, he's with it. He's on the podcast.
Excellent.
He's totally with it.
Yeah, there was another person in the Dreamforce portal.
That's right.
Right. So, by the way, speaking of it, we'll flip it. We'll flip the whole agenda upside down-ish. Is in the Dreamforce portal, we do have a Dreamforce group, CloudFocus Weekly group. So, if you want to mix your peanut butter and your jelly together, you can go ahead, or chocolate and peanut butter, I guess is what I've used. You can go in there and it's Salesforce Dreamforce portal. If you're registered for it, you can then tweet it up in there or talk it up in there. We'll be, again, we'll communicate any way you want. Twitter, Dreamforce, discuss. I don't know, Facebook. I guess we respond to Facebook.
In person.
In person, that's right. So remember to go in there.
Speaking of Dreamforce, why don't we do this now? Why don't we give out the Dreamforce
code?
Why don't we give the code?
All right.
Well,
what code is that?
If you haven't registered for Dreamforce yet, here's your chance to get $100 off. I think it's still at $7.99. I don't think it's gone up yet, but it's gonna.
I thought it was gonna go up.
Well, it hasn't. I don't think it's happened yet. And if it has, it has. But here's the way to get $100 off,
regardless if it's gone up or not.
When you register, put in the code D13MVPREF, and you will save $100.
Nice.
D13MVPREF. REF.
Well, it is $8.99 right now.
There you go. It's gone up $100. So now here's your way to get your $100 back.
You can save $600 by registering before July 18th. So it's going to go up to $14.99.
Like crazy to regular price. So get
Does
in there
anybody
now.
Pay that? Someone must pay it.
There's got to be somebody out there.
Yeah. Well, anyway, you never have to pay that. You listeners of the podcast,
you'll never have to pay that much
because we'll always have to pay
at least $100 less.
That's right.
That's it.
Excellent.
Call Mark Benioff. Tell him I sent you. He'll do something for you.
Oh, God, we're just going right through our little agenda right here. Next up is our blog of the week.
Yep.
Which was written by one of the valued employees here at Arkus.
At Roger M. Mitchell.
Yeah. Actually, this came about, so let's talk about this.
Sure.
This came about because Roger went on a vacation to India.
That's right.
Over the New Year's.
Yeah.
And because he had crossed, had told somebody or told one of his clients, he got the chance to go actually to visit a client who's doing social work in the slums of Mumbai.
Yes.
And so he told me about the experience. Actually, he told you about it, and he hadn't told me, and we were talking about it And I said, that sounds awesome. I'm like, you have to write that up. Like, put into a blog post. Like, what a great thing to do. So he did. It's up on the site, blog.arkusinc.com. So yesterday, me being me,
You being you.
the blog post gets posted. The head of marketing posts the blog post and then tweets it out during...
Doesn't the head of finance do the blog post?
Sometimes the head of finance.
Oh, okay.
Head of HR also will chip in if the head of finance and the head of marketing is busy.
I thought it was the head of finance. I thought that was a finance thing.
There's also the head of event coordination.
Marketing coordinator.
Yeah. So I just decided to throw an email towards MB. Throw a little CEO at Salesforce Action, and lo and behold, he tweets it up, which is kind of neat. So
He did.
It was a nice...
As if it was his own idea.
As if he was his own... Anyway, so yes. So Mark Benioff tweeted yesterday about this blog post. It's been a little bit crazy. The server hasn't crashed, which is good.
That's good.
But it's cool. Anyway, it's a great article. Again, I don't even want to really get into it because it's just, you should read it. It has some nice pictures. It's about his visit to a user of Salesforce, someone he's actually the project manager on, and then their use of it, and then him kind of, as consultants, sometimes we work with clients and we don't get to see their work. I was actually on site with a client last week, and walking around their offices and seeing what they do was rather interesting, kind of just to get, we get so caught up sometimes in the Salesforce side of things to see like, oh, there's a person and how they interact with a client. That's a very specific thing. So anyway, it's at blog.arkusinc.com. I suggest you read it before Mark Benioff does. Or he already read it.
He might have already read it.
I hoping he does or did. Next up is the event that I didn't get to go to last week.
Oh, that's next?
I'm calling it, yeah, it is. I'm calling it the not CloudForce.
CCT?
Speaking of things that Mark Benioff didn't do. So CCT is the...
Customer Company Tour.
Okay. And is this CloudForce? Did everybody think it was CloudForce?
Yes.
Okay.
People are calling it CloudForce.
Okay. But it is CCT.
It is CCT.
And that thing we went to 2 months ago, what was that?
That was the advanced screening.
That was the advanced CCT?
That was like, when Broadway shows have the previews.
Yes.
That was the preview of CCT. This was CCT.
So because Mark Benioff wasn't going, and because we thought this wasn't CloudForce, we planned to go visit a client during that time. Or I did.
You did.
And so
I didn't.
You didn't. You went to it. What do you think? Tell me about it. We literally have not talked about it.
Well, no, we haven't. So I should start off by saying there was an event. This happened Friday of last week.
Right.
There was also an event Thursday of last week, which was a partner forum.
Okay.
Which was very different message. It was really just for partners. so I won't get too into it. The only thing I will say is that one of the breakout sessions at that event was Peter Coffey speaking for an hour.
Okay.
And if you've never experienced Peter Coffey speaking, he's a fantastic speaker.
Wow.
He might be the best speaker at Salesforce.
Even over Mark.
He might be the best speaker at Salesforce.
That's crazy.
He's that engaging. He's that sharp. He's that witty. And he talked about big data and Salesforce's role in big data. And I think we'll talk about something later on that I feel is a play with big data. But anyway, on to Friday, which is more public. So it started out with there were sessions at like 8:30 in the morning at the Hilton before the keynote, which was to start at 10.
Mm-hmm.
I did not go. I went for the keynote at 10. It was a show. It was a Nest show outside Radio City. That's where the keynote was being held. Now, I had never been to Radio City.
Oh, really?
As a native New Yorker, I've never been to Radio City. So I was really just excited to go to Radio City Music Hall. Sat with a client for the keynote.
Nice.
The keynote was... It was a mix. It was a mix of Vivek Kundra, Parker Harris, and then like 2 or 3 other people who they would just keep like inviting other people onto the stage to talk about their little piece, like their little cloud or their product. It was like 4 people kind of doing It wasn't the normal folks. There was no Mark Benioff. There was no George Hu.
Demo Dan?
There was no Demo Dan.
No Demo Dan.
There was like none of the normal like Dreamforce big keynote
Okay.
people were there. It was different people.
So what was so other than Mark Benioff not being there, what was your takeaway?
It was rough because it wasn't, to me, it didn't feel big time because Mark Benioff wasn't there. Like the keynote itself wasn't.
This is like an Apple event without Steve Jobs.
Well, there's a difference. Steve Jobs is no longer with us.
Well, I'm just saying.
I mean, they've had to move on without him. It kind of showed a little weakness in the armor there. It wasn't a totally great keynote.
Since this is a podcast, I'm going to explain what Justin looks like as he says that. He's literally turning purple.
The wheels are turning
He's
to not say something really awful.
What can I not say that won't get me in trouble with all my friends at Salesforce?
Because I know they listen, but it's
I'll do what the new newscasters say.
Okay.
Word on the street is that the keynotes were not as good without Mark Benioff.
Word on the street is they need Mark Benioff to do these keynotes or get Peter Coffey to do it.
That's what the interesting takeaway is.
Do it. Have him do it. He's an extremely engaging speaker.
So for the people who don't know who Peter Coffey is, just because you hadn't met him or seen him, he's the guy who's usually on the floor of Dreamforce,
right,
doing the pre-keynote
interview stuff.
Which, honestly, this is one of my, I don't like that expression, but he always seems so hokey. It's like it's all these hokey conversations, and then he's playing with sassy.
I think that's the role he has to play at that point because he's really. I mean, he's extremely intelligent and really well spoken. He's very, very good speaker. But these are big events, right? And I'm sitting with a client and.
Now, just so we reference, I know you don't want to say the client's name. This is a client that we've gone with a ton of times that we know very well. This is a new client.
Yeah.
Someone who's never been to any events before.
Her first time there.
Oh, well, now you broke it down. 50% of the chance. And, so I'm figuring it out.
She was she was a little overwhelmed and a little bit she sort of felt force-fed.
Well, what was the message? What was the CCC message?
Customer, if you're not a customer company, you're behind. If you're not social, you're behind. If you're not mobile, you're behind. People are doing this. Here's examples. And that's the marketing cloud. It had a more coherent look and feel because the thing was real. They were calling it social.com.
Yep, that's what I've had that for a while.
So they had they built a marketing campaign on the fly up on the stage. You saw it show up on the devices. It actually worked.
Yep.
A lot of the times, some of that stuff was hocus pocus. They'd be and that's the marketing cloud. You'd be you can't do that.
Right.
But this looked they just did that.
This is all the Buddy Media piece.
This is the Buddy Media piece, yeah. And you saw some Radiant 6 insights inside
Salesforce.
Yeah, you saw some pretty cool stuff, some native Radiant 6 stuff, which was pretty cool. The breakouts were, I only went to one breakout, the financial services breakout. That was very good, run by someone we've known for a long, long time. With
literally
one of our clients,
6 years or
forever,
something ridiculous.
And that was really good. The expo floor, it was unfortunate. It was broken in half.
They can't fix that?
Well, it was on the third and fourth floor with an escalator to go up and down.
Okay.
So the expo floor, I kind of felt bad for some of the vendors because there was food on one floor and not on the other.
No one was at the food without the floor without the food?
The floor with the food got the people at lunchtime for sure,
right
after the keynote. And then, I went upstairs and it wasn't nearly as crowded. And then I go back downstairs and it was just bigger, more people there. I wonder if you had to pay different prices.
So compare and contrast this to what we've normally been in the CloudForce in Jacob Javits.
It was more like a CloudForce at the Pierre Hotel
that we went to many years ago.
Yeah, it wasn't a Jacob Javits CloudForce.
So, because we used to say that CloudForce was like Dreamforce, baby
this
Dreamforce.
Was not.
So this is like baby CloudForce.
Yeah, it kind of was a baby CloudForce. There wasn't the...
They're growing up so fast.
Well, they only had 3 breakout rooms.
Right.
And, sessions going on throughout the day. So a bunch of sessions. I think there was a separate zone for developers, but it wasn't really in like rooms. It was more like a theater type of situation. I didn't really head over that way. It didn't look all that interesting. It wasn't as good as a normal CloudForce. I don't know why. I just didn't get the feel. Maybe I was there by myself. That might have had something to do with it. Usually I'm there with you or the partner that shall remain nameless.
You miss me.
It just wasn't.
So even
same.
comparing it to the preview, you thought the preview was better?
The preview was better. Yeah, the preview was better. I mean,
I thought that was a good event.
Yeah, this wasn't actually as good as that event, and they had like similar stuff going on. Like, they had the story, and then they showed a lot of videos. That's like their new style. They're just showing videos. You're gonna see like 4 or 5 videos during the Dreamforce keynote.
Well, yeah, we did.
That's where they're going.
Remember?
They're making these very highly produced, polished
YouTube
videos. They're like really good.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean that's it. I mean that's the thing. And then if the person's there, they invite them up on the stage and they talk about it and they say Salesforce did this and this and that and it's great and changed my life and here I'm doing my work on my mobile and all that stuff, right?
So it's interesting because I talked to I talked to a client who had gone up there and seen it, or actually come down from Boston to go to the event, and I said, how was it? And he said, oh, it was good, I said, what did you take away? And he says, oh, it felt, and we're sort of in the beginning stages of implementation with them, so it's not, sort of at the start, but he felt overwhelmed by the amount of stuff, like that, because there's a chance when you're just at the beginning stages of your Salesforce implementation, some of the stuff can feel like, whoa, like I'm trying to get a lead conversion process going. I'm excited about forecasts, and yet they're showing you like online advertising with Facebook and real-time listening tools. Right. And you're like, I just want
That's
CRM.
What the person sitting next to me was like, I've had Salesforce for 2 years. I'm trying to make it work. Like, this is this is not. She's like, I haven't finished my Kool-Aid yet.
Right. Well, and what I explained to the client, I said, this is their thing. We talk about this all the time. This is Salesforce's thing. They're always showing you and pushing. They're pushing the message way ahead of the time. Meaning 3 years ago, they got up and said, Chatter. It's social. It's inside. It's the way you're going to do work. It's like everything. And at the time, I remember going, I don't know about that. Now looking back 3 years later, I'm like, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of our clients use Chatter. Some of them really started to adopt it as a thing. It's easier for them. It's easier when I talk about it. I remember 3 years ago talking about Chatter, people be like, yeah, I'm not using that. Now it's like, oh, okay, some collaboration, and you can see the value and stuff like that. So I think this stuff is, we're getting there. Right. And so this is just them saying, you're not going to be there now. You're going to be there in 3 years.
Here's the thing that I finally bought in on.
Okay.
2 things. Marketing Cloud, I'm bought in. It's going to be huge for them.
Okay.
Marketing Cloud is going to be very, very big. And secondly, communities. We've been sort of seeing them, hearing about them, reading them in the release notes, how portals are going away. Communities are going to be very big for them.
Okay.
I feel.
Where's the money behind communities?
Licenses.
I know, but do we know how that's going to work yet?
No.
Okay.
But you know that they're not selling portal licenses anymore. So where's the money in portals? Licenses.
Okay. All right.
Where's the money in communities? Licenses.
Excellent.
But the whole authentication model, like that how you can sort of single sign in using your Salesforce credentials to different orgs in communities. I mean, that's kind of big.
That's big stuff would love to see for a long, long time. Well, speaking of things that we have not wanted to see but are here, Salesforce also in the middle of this picked up bought another company.
Yeah,
EdgeSpring.
That's right. So this was what I was alluding to before when I was talking about Peter Coffey talking about big data, and he was really talking about insights and being able to see like trends and analysis across business. And what was that?
That was me dropping down a little bit.
Why'd you do that?
You're short. I don't look you directly in the eyes.
I was messed up. Screwed up my whole train of thought.
Because you can't see me drop 2 inches on my.
So, this product, EdgeSpring, which is enterprise business intelligence and analytics, whatever that means. Basically, in the article that we're reading on TechCrunch, they say that they can enable applications to sort of answer questions or be predictive about, about problems, whether it's against structured or unstructured data.
Interesting.
So that to me is like a big data piece of a puzzle. Now, whether this startup can scale to big data bigness, right, is one thing we're not sure. But another tool in the shed to say, yeah, we can manage big data problems. We can do analysis across millions and millions and millions of transactions. We can predict and do forecasting across an enormous data set. We can interact with machines, right? Like machines interacting with machines. They always use the GE engine model or metaphor, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can have the GE engine talking to something, chattering and saying that we should do something about this engine because it's prone to failure because of some condition that's happening in the air and the engine and the fuel level and the this and that and the other. That's where I feel like anything that Salesforce purchases for analytic capabilities is not just on the surface for the reporting engine. There's something else going on there.
I love the reporting engine so much that like whenever they buy something that I feel like that, because that's always something I feel like is a kickback. Like I feel like, okay, fine, 6 to 12 months, 18 months from now, whenever this thing makes it into some release or is in some Scrum, whatever, I will be able, that'll excite me. I love the analytics side of it. I use it all the time. I use it personally, and I obviously use all my clients. I solve questions for them using reporting and dashboarding, and so anything that can make it better, awesome. Love that. Again, it's so very vague, like what it does. So, like they just raised $11 million, and then were bought by Salesforce, and now they don't really tell you what they do anymore. All right, so next up is so we talked about the DF12 thing, DF13.
Yeah, we talked about the code.
We don't need to talk about that ever again.
We'll talk about it next week.
But I am going to so this was a big Salesforce agenda type of day. We went all over Salesforce's stuff.
We're right up in Salesforce right now.
But I'm going to say for next week, and I think we should talk about, I'm going to do this on air with you because I know you love doing that. So we've talked about doing these big episodes, right? These kind of in-depth episodes. I think we said we were going to do meetings coming up. I don't know if we said we're going to do this week or next week, whatever. But we're doing it next week. So episode 141 will be about meetings. And we're going to talk about best practices. We're going to talk about the craziness of them. We're going to talk about our problems with them. We're going to deep dive into them. I know we have one also coming up that we want to do maybe in July around paperless, going paperless, the problems with it, what you can do, something like that. So again, best practices, stuff that we've really incorporated into our life, and meetings are certainly something that we do a lot of.
Yep.
And we have lots of stuff that we've kind of, make better and hopefully to help out with. So those are the next two. I'd also love to hear from you if there's stuff that you want us to deep dive into, like we touch on, or maybe, you hear me riff on something or Justin riff on something and you're like, oh, it'd be cool if they deep dived into that. Let us know. Again, we're a cloud computing podcast. We'll talk about cloud computing stuff and technology and whatever. But we like these special episodes. I think we'll see what the next one goes. But the audience seems to like them. You guys seem to like them, so we'll do them again. Speaking of things that they like, shaking your head. By the way, second picture of him.
This is terrible.
So we're doing our CloudFocus app pick of the week. That is where we pick a new unpicked
What's with that rule?
App.
Oh, this is terrible.
That we've never picked before.
Oh, man.
And we make that pick.
All right, let me do that. So, first off, I screwed up. Let me apologize.
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 By the way,
to
how many
everybody.
episodes? By the way, if anybody can give me the number of episodes where he's apologized,
Oh, so many. It's like beyond even two hands at this point. You need your feet. So I was gonna pick Google Hangouts, but then
You literally picked it,
realized that I picked it like 4 weeks ago.
maybe 3.
Well, here's the thing. I picked it before we turned it on for our Arkus Inc. domain. And I was just really futzing around with it on my regular Gmail account. Then we turned it on with our Arkus Inc. domain, and I have now found that it is extremely useful on the mobile device.
All right, fine. Talk about how you've used your own pick again 3 weeks after picking it. I mean, really. The level of this, I am not tweeting this
So
to Mark
bad.
Benioff.
Just don't. Just, you know what? Negative tweet it. Meaning, like, delete something. I don't know.
That doesn't mean anything.
Well, recently, like last week, as a good example, I was out of the office Thursday and Friday at events all day long. But I communicate a lot during the day through Google Chat.
Just Google Chat, right?
Right.
Which is now, see, that's where and maybe this will help somebody. I'm even at this point, don't know where Google Chat, IM, Jabber, and Hangouts all intersect.
They're all Hangouts.
They're all Hangouts.
Yep.
Except for when
So
I'm...
Google Chat, it doesn't even exist anymore if you turn Hangouts on. It's a hangout. It's a hangout. It's a one-on-one hangout, but you can do a lot of things with it because you can do file sharing and photo sharing and video up to 10 people in one.
Right.
And I found it extremely useful to be able to communicate with, our development team throughout the day and not over email, just quick messages back and forth. And it sort of just replaced iMessage for me.
Right.
Because
So it's just like iMessage on your phone.
iMessage
using Jabber.
using Google
Google
Hangouts.
Hangouts.
And I was doing it with Roger, whom we mentioned earlier, and I've done a few with you. I did a video with him to show him what the event looked like.
Right.
And then we compared it to FaceTime. We were doing all sorts of comparisons just to see which one was better.
Yeah.
FaceTime turned out to have better video quality. Although I don't think you can do 10 people on a FaceTime.
Right. So other than just it's like having SMS.
It's actually a pervasive.
It's like iMessage.
Chat. No, it's more of a
How is iMessage not a pervasive chat?
It's like iMessage. Yes, if you have a Mac, but if you don't have a Mac, then iMessage is not as good as Hangouts.
Why? What does Hangouts do?
Well, I can do it from anywhere. Anywhere.
Oh,
meaning-
I see. Right, I can be on a web and do it. Right.
Yeah, I'm in
it's
my
actually one of my
Gmail.
things I don't like. I pop open and then it pops open when I land on my Google Plus page. It's like this whole
Right.
thing of Hangouts.
Well, forget even that. I mean, I can be on my Gmail. I can even see it on like my Google Drive. There's like a little alert deal now for Google Plus notifications. There's all sorts of. They're integrating everything together. iMessage, if you have a Mac, then iMessage with an iPhone and an iPad. Well, then you've got it in all places.
Right.
But if you don't have a Mac, or if you're somewhere in a library or whatever,
I spend a lot of my time in libraries.
or whatever, if you don't have your computer, you have
Yeah.
someone else's computer, you can very easily continue your communications using the Hangouts.
And I feel like that was exactly what was in Google Chat, but maybe it wasn't pervasive.
But Google Chat wasn't really well done on the mobile. I don't even know if
On the
was
mobile, it wasn't very well done. That is correct. Okay.
And these include, a 10-person video is pretty neat, right? If
Right.
you wanted to do a video chat, you
Is
can
it
do
screen sharing?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
Not on the mobile, at least. I'm more picking the mobile version of it.
Okay. It's an interesting conundrum that we have all these chatting.
We have tons of chatting things.
And I
actually still think WhatsApp is the best one, and I'll tell you why.
All right, you tell me why. You so you're going to repick one of your old picks too?
Well, I'm just going to tell you why I use a lot of these things, and I think WhatsApp is the best. The reason being is that iMessage, you have so many text messages and whatever in there, and all you see are the people. When you're looking at like your iMessages,
Right.
all you see are like the people that are in it.
Yes.
As opposed to WhatsApp, which has named chats. So like named rooms.
Okay.
So you hop in there and you see who's in, you know who's in there.
Right.
As opposed to like iMessage, where it's just like a scrolling list of, if there's more than 3 people in it, you don't even know who's in there because you can't see. You only see 1.5 names on the screen. WhatsApp, you just name something, Arkus founder group, and I know the 3 of us are in there.
Right.
As opposed to iMessage,
You have to go
which is
see the
weird.
people that are in it.
Right.
Okay. That sounds
WhatsApp
good.
actually does it really well,
Right.
because you kind of create the chat room and then you add the people to it,
Right.
as opposed to just
Adding people.
messaging people.
Right.
But if you have a big group message of 7 people, you don't know, it kind of gets lost.
Okay.
In iMessage, so they actually don't do that really well. So that's why I use all of these things for very different purposes and reasons. That was why I was picking Hangouts, because we turned it on our domain, and I found some very, really good utility for it.
I found that I had to go turn it off immediately on all my devices because all of a sudden I was getting notifications.
You got to turn notifications off if you don't want them.
Yeah, they were all over the place.
Yeah.
And I have not used it on the mobile phone other than when I open up my iPad. It says it starts doing the banner at the top saying I have Chatter, and then it says I have Hangouts. It says Chatter, Hangouts, Chatter, Hangouts, which is cool. All right, so my pick. So that's it. Hangouts free. It's something you've already picked before. Totally unprofessional of you. My pick.
It is. Sorry.
It's all right. Well, you say sorry to them. They care. I already know how unprofessional you are, and I basically have given up on you. So my pick is something that I might have picked before, but the feature that just came out, although you don't remember I picking it, so it doesn't really matter.
I remember you picking it,
No,
or at least talking to me.
I've talked about this a lot. So there is an application that's been on the Mac for a long time called Hazel. Mm-hmm. It is a menu extension. It sits in your menu, and it allows you to basically build rules that do things with files. So you go, okay, kind of interesting. So I'll tell you a couple of the ones I have. So I take a lot of screenshots, literally a lot of screenshots. Mm-hmm. And but at one point I was like, I want to be able to keep the screenshots, but I don't want to have to like think about keeping the screenshots. So I built a rule that whenever screenshots drop down to my desktop, Hazel just takes a copy of it, throws it into a folder.
Okay.
Deep in some like Dropbox. So if I ever need to go back, if I delete off my desktop and I can't find that screenshot, I can go back, and I have them by year. Literally, there's hundreds, but I can go back and look in them very quickly and see and find it. Okay, that's one of them.
Okay.
Another example is when you actually trash an application, Hazel will sweep across and say, do you want to trash all the preferences for it as well?
Ooh, that's nice.
Does that for free, right?
That's
Does that,
cool.
goes and looks at that.
I like that.
It can do things like mark things based on the age. So it can say, hey, this document has been in this folder you added it 5 days ago. I could make it red for you. So maybe to like alert you to how old something is. Kind of interesting. It can also rename stuff, right? So it can, as things come down, it can recreate it as the name that it was saved, the name that it was dropped there. It can do some pretty cool stuff. So it can move and rename and trash and move files around, automatically set up on the rules that you base. All very cool stuff, but here's what so Hazel 3.1 just came out, and it has one feature in it that I've literally already played with this morning, and it's blown away my mind.
What's it doing?
Okay. So you can now base rules on the content of the data, of the document. So for example, and I used the example this morning, I save my statements. Mm-hmm. Right, I go to Chase and I click on download and I download my statement, and it comes down as statement.pdf every time.
Yeah, same name, right. No good.
Yeah, so I created a rule that read through the document, finds the statement date as of this date.
Ooh, fancy sauce.
Renames it to that date. And then puts in, Chase statement, the date of it is basically my naming convention, which we'll talk about in our podcast about paper in 2 months, and then moves it to the right folder. So literally in one swope, it reads through and basically pattern matches against a date, finds the date, and renames it to that format of the thing. So and it's smart. So the date in the statement says March, 31st, 2013. I have it match across that, but when it writes the file name out, it writes it as 2013-03-31- whatever. It's my naming convention. This is something I do constantly. So you can set it to basically parse the file, find something in it, and then rename it, and then basically do actions based on something in it. So you could say, if it has Amex in it, name it this way. If it has Chase in it, name it this way. So not only can it parse the dates, but it can parse the stuff that's in it. So you can build a rule that says if it's an Amex statement, put it here and name it Amex. If it's a Chase statement. Anyway, so cool stuff. There's a video on Max Sparky. He does these videos. I think I've talked about him before. He's kind of like a productivity Mac guy. And he does a video of what 3.1 does somewhere on the web. I think I tweeted it. Go to Jason M. Atwood. It's very, very cool. And it's really quick to set up. I set up this morning. I had like 50 statements sitting in a folder. And I basically created a rule. And it just went through and renamed them all based on the actual statement date. Not the date it was saved, not the date I found it, it was the statement date, which is awesome. So what's nice, too, is you can set up rules that then go in and do that in the past. So if you have like a bunch of folders that are sitting there with bad PDFs in them, you can just set the rule and it'll go through and find them for you, as opposed to you opening them up and actually having to rename them. So amazing. Hazel 3.1. I don't even know how much it costs. I think it's like $29.95. I got a free upgrade because I owns it and I likes it. Let's see, I'll give you a price. Hazel.
Give me a price, would you?
Yeah, 3.1. It's a company called Noodlesoft. It is $28. You can get a free 14-day thing. It is unbelievable.
I like
and you know who else? Right on their homepage? My new Mac felt lobotomized before introducing Hazel. Merlin Mann. So there you go. If Merlin Mann is saying
if Merlin's using it,
I mean, I will say you should
good.
think about like how you want to set it up. It has so many uses. The hard part is sort of like setting it up and just letting it go. But once you've done it, you're just amazed at the stuff that just happens. You're like, oh yeah, that files. You can have it automatically delete your trash. You can have it automatically move things around, rename them. So anyway, great uses. Hazel by Noodlesoft. Get it, love it, feel it. Your life is over now. I don't really.
Where'd that come from? That wasn't very nice.
It doesn't mean anything. All right, so that's it for CloudFocus Weekly this week. We'll be back next week. We told you all the places to go: the Twitter, the Facebook, the Google Hangouts. Oh yeah, we don't have that one. We're on Google Plus. Follow Justin at Just Edelstein. Follow me at Jason M. Atwood. Follow Arkus at Arkus Inc. If you want to be involved or see the podcast, go to blog.arkusinc.com. Go to facebook.com/ArkusInc. iTunes, leave us great reviews. We have 21 reviews. I'd love to have more. We love them. They're great. We'll even say that you reviewed us on iTunes. Until then, we'll be back next week with our meetings episode. I don't know what I'm going to title it, but it'll be all about meetings no matter what. No matter what happens. No matter what happens.
Put it on the calendar.
It's going to go on the calendar. Meetings next week. Till then, and as always, enjoy those cloudy days.